Hello everybody, we're going to be getting the stream going in about 14 minutes now. Hello Casper in the chat. Part 2 you can find on patreon.com/FelixUltimate. It's patrons only, just $1 if you want to see all the parts to the series. Part 1's on YouTube. Yeah, just waiting for Brian to come online, and 13 minutes now, we'll get going. Stay tuned. All right, everybody. We've got Bryan online. Bryan, how are you?
Good, Felix. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. You looking forward to this third part of the game?
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's going to be nice to get back into it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, the audio sounds pretty good. We have got 5 minutes till we go live. So, well, I'd like to hear what people in the chat, if anyone's got any questions for Bryan, or if you're excited about the stream. We don't know what colour the names are in chat at the moment because nobody said anything, so it's a unknown. One of the many things I'm excited for today. So we'll be going live in like 4 minutes now. Stay tuned. Okay, everybody, we are about to go live. It's just turned 4:30 on my clock. We've got Rue in position, and Bryan is ready as well. So Alt Tab back. I'll turn the video on, and then we'll get going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I'm Felix from Felix Ultimate. I'm joined today by, well, I'm joined by Rue. who's here. And to you by the one and only Bryan Jones. Hello, Bryan. How are you?
Good. And then you got the Roo Cam set up. I'm excited now.
Indeed. Thanks to the support of patrons, able to get a 24/7 Roo Cam, or like at least permanent stream Roo Cam. And it follows her around. So if she, wanders off somewhere, then the camera follows. Not automatically. That would be insane. We'd need to have like another 1,000 patrons for that. So today we're looking at Revolver versus Bravo. And this is the third time we've looked at this game. We got to halfway last time. So are you looking forward to the second half? Do you want to give like a little summary of maybe the first half, Bryan, for people that maybe didn't see the stream?
Yeah, no, I think, specifically I remember it was just so, you were just waiting to see if somebody could knock off Revolver in one of these games. And Bravo, seemed to have the opportunity in the first half and then kind of gave it away, and Revolver, was able to crawl back into it, and it kind of set the stage. And even though we knew this was, for Worlds versus Club, you kind of knew that Bravo was trying to experiment with a new roster and Revolver was kind of fully formed. You were still anxious to see what the result would be, and it led to a really compelling second half. The other thing is just after we, this is our third part in the series of this, is it's amazing what you can unpack in a single game. A lot of what you can kind of generate discussion or thoughts of, there's so much there, little things to digest, and I think that's why me and you kind of love diving into it. So I'm excited to go do the second half now and see how far we get. Yeah,
exactly. See how far we get, because we do like to go off on tangents, which is a large part of the fun of it. So IHD, is that intensity, humility, and discipline, or is it?
Yeah, you got it right.
Humility, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've learned recently is just how hard it is to be hungry consistently to win. After you win, a lot of athletes talk about winning their first championship in the chase, and it really drives you, and it's a lot of fun. And then afterwards, the sustaining hunger that you need to go after more and more championships and excellence, it's a lot. And so having guiding principles, it seems like was really good for Revolver for year after year for them to kind of hold themselves to. And that was a big reason why they were so good for so long.
Why have Bravo got USA on the front of their shirts?
Typically for Club World, since you're representing you've qualified to represent the United States, a lot of teams would be creative with their jersey use. And so it's actually a USA with a rocket ship on it. So I think that's to kind of represent what they are and just take pride in it. So other US teams have done that before and kind of come up with creative designs.
Okay. Yeah, the amount of shirts you end up buying if you play high level Ultimate is insane. Like teams getting them for nice catch. But teams getting them for like every tournament and everything. So at this point, Revolver come out of a side stack. Really deep pull from Kurt Gibson. They swing it over to the far side from the camera, which is the same side as the side stack. Is that traditional? Is that preferred to have the disc on that same side, or is it preferred to have it in the middle or on the far side, would you say?
Well, I think here it looks like they're trying to run a set play, and I'm not sure if this came off as intentional or if it was just a matter of them seeing some poaches and making decisions. It looks like they're trying to flood right away and get it on that side. And then you see a soft poach from Bravo forces the swing back to the middle. And so it's really a switching side stack mode where they end up almost flooding twice and reestablishing on the other side of the field. And from there, I think this is just their normal offense. So the first might have been a set play, get the underneath on that sideline. And then from here, it's normal rhythm, try to get to the other side of the field and create big spaces, and they do.
I've just done a little technical thing. I just shared my screen on Discord, so if you want to watch with no delay, then Brian, you can open up the Discord screen share, but I don't know what your setup is, whether that's possible. So I think it does look a little bit like, yeah. So I play these two run across, and then from the back comes under. And my answer defensively to this is very predictable for anyone who watches the stream. You got 3 offense there, so you should have 3 defense surrounding like that. So that then any direction that these 3 offense try to run in, there will be a defender that can pick them up, and then the other 2 can reposition to guard the hole that's left.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Defender at the back is very kind of aware to it, and that's quite closer than normal, really. Like that's good deed to be that tight to that undercut. There's a bit of argy-bargy at the back here with this isolated cutting, but again, you know, I always put in my bit of like the offense. I like offense like this. I like defense like this. By these 2 players coming out over here, yeah, they've now opened up like a huge amount of space directly in front of the disc, right? And all the disc has done is gone like from here to here, and now they've got a good chance to go into here, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And then you got this cutter here could go deep and get the disc, or could go under and get the disc. And this is something that you know, even though it's their strength, Revolver's strength, and even though it worked as a strength for them for many years, it ended up being their weakness, which you ended up kind of masterminding the undoing of it by having players then kind of aware and diving into this area. But I know that you go on.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of observations here. You know, if we can go back to where you just had the disc frozen.
Sorry.
There's a couple of thoughts that enter my mind. One, you know, there's the idea of like creating that lane that you pointed out, which is right in front of the thrower at this point.
Yeah.
But in addition, you only have 3 people downfield. Revolver has kept 3 handlers back, and they're not anxious to get up front. So you have the person with the disc, and then 3 other people behind the play. And this principle, I wonder a couple of things. One, you know, it'd be a fun tangent to go on, but one offense I'm reminded of that I've heard about that I haven't studied was that for a while, Sockeye would run a 4-handler, 3-person downfield host stack. And this was in the days of having Chase and Alex Nord and I think Sammy CK, and you could just kind of run players all over the field with that. But the problem is that your cutters get tired. And so Revolver in this system, they're isolating space and they're shifting people in and out of responsibility, and it's a little bit of slower moving rather than like a 3-person host stack downfield. So they're probably more efficient, but that's probably a tangent for another day.
Mm-hmm.
And Bravo does a good job here. I mean, it's a soft little poach handlers. They have when we faced Revolver would be much more aggressive of not only just being soft, but we don't, you know, I don't want to defend anybody behind the disc really, and so getting downfield and reducing this 3-on-3 that's occurring and making it into a much better odds for the defense would be good. But it's still good from Bravo. They get what they want to start out with, which is stop the pull play and hopefully get yourself into a good defensive position. Flat mark, a little bit of a poach, so there's not too many good throwing options. And it's going to force Revolver to swing it around, but Revolver's still really good, and they get their second option and go in the flow very well.
Yeah, so let's look through it. So that cutter comes under into that lane. The defender that poached off then forces the disc to go back. Maybe not forces, but influences it. Another sacking off defender. So the disc could move laterally, but they've got this big space in front of the disc again. So then they just have another cut coming into it from another angle. Why is that defender poached off a little bit there? Maybe he's anticipating this cut going deep or something, but he's given a bit of space. Was that the break side?
It's hard to know what the force is even at this point. I think they're going force middle a little bit because I believe this is a backhand huck kind of over the middle of the field that happens.
Yeah, it does look like it's middle. All spotted. And then the deep cut, there we go, it's just that one step fake. And then the poach comes off. But the that throw's barely gettable by anybody. Awesome.
When you have the athletes, and it's a fast backhand, you can't really help on this. This is either going to be a goal or it's going to be a throwaway.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Oh, we're pink. We've got pink names in the chat today.
Sanchez not usually known for putting it deep, but with Rasmussen getting elevated, how can you blame him? So Marcelo Sanchez.
There's Joel Schlackett giving him the high five. I've got to make a video on Joel Schlackett's cutting at some point.
Great plays in the receiving end, being trusted here though for the deep shot, and there it goes. Our keys to
Nice.
the game.
Is there another angle? Yes, it's the best angle probably.
Helps when Cassidy's your receiver. Have a lot of faith that if you put up a disc, it's going to get caught.
Oh, video's paused. Oh, there we go. It's working again.
It's also just demoralizing. You're sitting there as a defensive unit. You're trying to figure out what to do. It's like you feel like you forced a pretty good option, but you don't come off the field feeling satisfied of putting in work.
No, indeed.
A little bit of a breeze up top, but we're 15 to 20 feet off the ground. You can see in the background the flags still not affecting the game. Mickle hacked on the mark by Evangelides. Evangelides winning a championship with Carlton.
Huh, okay, let's just have a look at that until the stoppage. So they got 3, like, split stack, potentially. Just taking what they're given initially with the under. Either forcing away or force middle, breaking down the line. Nice catch here, and then Evangelides, yeah, he gets this pokey hand in there. I saw this the other day as well. It's just this thing of getting the, like, that's not all that's doing is harassing the thrower against the rules. And Jimmy calls the foul here. I mean, he could have potentially just played through it, but I guess because he has no immediate option, then he may as well. Gets Evangelides to go behind him. Right, we're back in.
Evangelides is a rookie, but gained experience with some of the Revolver guys.
Is that another foul? Foul on the mark, maybe?
A rookie, but gained experience with some of the Revolver
Yeah, just as he's coming across, I think. Caught the disc.
Where a lot of the D-line went to play and gain experience in the preseason. First taking go.
Let's put this chat.
Nickel. Looking for an option, flips it to Watson.
Yeah, layout. Oh, pushing it to the edges and then just a little bit too far. It's a great preemptive layout. Let's just see where some of these cuts come from. So fake under and go down the line. Great throw from Mickle to hit that in stride. And then he's come from the far side over here. So he's making like a... And Jimmy was looking at it. So they're threatening this, which gets the defender biting. And then Jimmy throws to this one instead. So that then this other cutter can then turn and he goes all the way down the line. Maybe not like that, maybe more like that.
I think it's just a lost opportunity, though, for the mark. And I think I would rather any other way to be beaten here. I think the angle isn't that great for an around flick. And from the sideline, I'd be screaming right hand high and just having them jump up almost. Because here, it's just there's one option left. If you get them, if you stop this high backhand, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a much worse scenario. And stall count getting high. And the angle for the, you see how the cut takes, he would have to pivot around for the flick, and there's a chance then the defender actually could catch up, depending on what it is, and that's just a harder option. Plus, to the outside more and around, it's going to be a little slower. Your continuation is going to be less natural. And so this is, I think, quite possibly the worst throw you could give up as a mark once you get into the late stall count. And these are kind of like the small little details that, how do you train them? How do you get them to matter? How do you get the communication off?
Right.
But that depth, yeah, I mean, Jimmy's thrown magnificent flicks to around. Don't get me wrong, but I'd still rather have that than the inside here. And this is set up to be a quick flip inside with how far away the cutter is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no guarantee that if Jimmy had faked this, then he wouldn't be able to pivot around and go for the sidearm. But you know, that's stopping the first thing is a good thing to start with, right? And then the flick then is harder and might not happen. But yeah, it kind of tears them open. The fact that this defender over here is committed to that swing as well means that then able to continue. Good discipline for no one else to take up that space. I still love that layout. And then the timing into the end zone. That should be a much easier pass. Quite good from the mark, I guess, to pressure it. But how does he get so free? I think, is it this player here? He's being face marked. Just being face marked. And then
Well,
just
the positioning becomes invalid. I mean, this is what power position does, is that the defender had good position 2 passes ago, but in rapid succession, when you have these 2 gainers, it changes the angle. And so now the defender, who's actually got good positioning at the start of the sequence, in 1 count, and then another in 2 counts, basically, or 3, needs to be shifting to a much different goal defending cut.
Yeah. Before
the disc was at half field, and he was like, I want you to huck it. And now he's got to be worried about a cut to the cone.
Yeah, he's got to go around. Yeah, and that's the benefit of face marking is that obviously your player can't get that far away from you because you're watching them the whole time. But then the con is you don't know where the disc is, so they don't need to get that far away from you if they time it right and the disc is moved to a place that you're not familiar with. Ravi is in the chat. Listened to the Eurozone podcast earlier. I recommend everyone goes to Ultraworld and checks out the Eurozone podcast that Ravi does with Liam Grant, and the Skipsal info as well. It's good to kind of stay knowledgeable of that, but that's for subscribers only. But that's Liam's got some insight there. It's quite interesting. Ravi says probably would have been a contact call. Wait, where's the foul here? Right. So when Jimmy pivoted back and Evangelides hit the disc, that would these days it'd be a contact. It wouldn't stop the play. Joe Marmerstein points out that was a good example of how pivoting towards the outside can open up things back towards the middle.
Stanley Peterson step on the field.
And he also says hello to Rue. Hey there, Rue.
Disc checked back in.
Yeah, I don't know if we can cycle back to find that outside towards the middle clip. So what was that foul about? Did you see?
I think it was an injury.
Oh, an injury. Okay. Barry says that his right hand on the mark, I guess, is high. A couple of seconds before that, right? So he did have it high before. If the sideline stresses that, then he makes it more difficult. Indeed, yeah, sideline can help. Sometimes sideline's called the 8th player. Your hand should pretty much always be high in that situation, unless you know that person doesn't throw high releases, right? And then you got the foot block, right? If it goes immediately low.
Yeah, it's a matter of how high and what you're defending against. It's not only just a high hand, but it's the way the mark should be shifted. You could go on for hours, but a lot of it's just reading body language and knowing where the defender is or where the cut is originating from. Whether or not you decide to really guard the inside or the around or be balanced. And so, you could have somebody facing up the mark and your right hand can be high, but you can still be shifted to guard the around a little bit more. And in the case that we were talking about, Jimmy was pivoting completely inward toward the middle of the field and would have to have pivoted and taken about a half a second to get to the around space.
Yeah. Quite patient offense, Revolver. I'm always interested to see what offenses fall into after they. Ooh, ouch. After they've been in possession of the disc for, you know, like several seconds or several passes, I'm always interested to see kind of like what the offense kind of, the pattern it falls into. One of the weirdest times was when somebody on our team had the disc in their hands for about 20 seconds. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It was like 20 or 25 seconds. One player with the disc in their hands, and it was because there's repeated contact calls and stuff. But for some reason, like, the play didn't stop, like on the second call. I think there's a switch here, isn't there? Yeah, you see when this player goes deep, then he sees this separation and he goes across here. But it's not. Is it a flash poach? Why doesn't, like, they should definitely switch at this point? He just stay on him. Yeah, there we go. That second thought though. Oof, a close bid. Yeah, so we had the disc in our hands. One person had the disc in hand for like 20 seconds, and I was really proud of my team because we didn't just, like, you know, we're playing hex, so we want to like keep shape, gravitate towards those kind of shape positions, and not all go downfield. And I was really proud of them, Brighton, because even after 20 seconds, we were still like in quite good shape, and the other team were like, "What is going on?" And we were just like, "Yeah, we're good to run still." Like we haven't like committed to a play or certain cuts. We're all in good position still. It's one of my favorite bits.
Yeah, there's a drill that we like to run occasionally at one point during the year to really solidify our offense, which is 7 versus 0, and or the hardest drill to run in the game, because you try to run your offense the entire way down the field simulated in a way where you just don't throw hucks for goals, and everybody has to do their job exactly right without any defense on you, and it's hard to know exactly it's hard to get everything right there and to be sure of your role, and then on top of that maintain the focus to just score without anybody around you. And I don't think we've ever had a first try success, and so that's one of the things that just really solidifies, and it doesn't take that long to do. You don't need to spend that much time on it, but it allows you to try to challenge your team to make sure everybody actually knows their roles inside and out.
Yeah. Reminds me of a drill I did. I think Ezra in the chat, I think, might have been at this league game with the university second team, and I was like, oh, we should like try and warm our offense movement up, you know, against no defenders. And with hex, it's you know, it's not the kind of downfield like cut, look for the next cut. It's more of like a fluid thing, obviously. So we had like a square, and then the idea was that the players in the basically like a circle with the point in the middle would like rotate around, and the disc would get passed around the edge whilst all the players like ran, keeping their shape but rotating, like spinning around the edge. You know what I mean? Like a gyroscope type thing. Mm-hmm. And once we get the hang of that, then you can add in like, you know, fake and cut or whatever. But that was quite interesting to kind of just get the timing and get people looking to move the disc on and keep the flow kind of going round. And then we could like change direction like in one shout and switch people in and out in the middle as well, because they never get the disc otherwise. But also to, you know, work on communication and stuff. What's this stoppage here?
To Kittredge. Dahlman.
Travel? Foul?
Dahlman.
Something.
Now working up the field, and
something on the mark. Not sure.
Offense had an 8-5 lead. Going up the line.
Another effective bow sidearm. Just lead pass down the line.
Levy, just outside the end zone. Levy back to Kittredge.
Yeah, it's messy D-line offense. They finally are able to figure it out, but it's not pretty. They spend most of their time just swinging the disc back and forth with their handlers.
Was it a blown switch? Yeah, it's the thing that I pointed out earlier. Actually, it's like the flash poach. So here, this player here is like, oh yeah, I'll just cover this, and he should switch. He should just stay on him. He should trust that his teammate is going to pick that up. But it's a team mentality thing, isn't it? Like, either you have the mentality of, you know, you will shut down that matchup, or you have the mentality, or, you know, and help each other out when you can, or you have the mentality of like, you know, we switch whenever it benefits us. And if you don't have all the players on the same page, then this happens, where a flash poach, and then one player's like, oh, he switched, so I don't need to mark him anymore. But then the flash poach is just like, oh, I'll help out for a second, and then I'll go back. And then it's 2v1 and 1v0.
Totally agree.
I want to watch that offense in super speeded up mode.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the cutters and see how many times they try to switch the fields and reset up, and their timing is off, and you can see that they're not quite sure who should be going and when and whatnot. So that's I think Team D-line offense, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, it's always just about survival. And we reset the disc. You could try really hard to do a lot of other things, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, some offenses will throw it deep very readily. I guess there's quite a lot of it's not like hardcore backing of the marks downfield by Bravo. Oh, we've had lots of stuff in chat. Are you able to keep an eye on chat as well?
I've seen some of it, yeah.
Okay, feel free to read out anything that you think's we should chat about, or that just should get airtime. Well, it's all getting airtime in one way.
Revolver now.
We're talking about laying out on the force, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just so nuanced. There was a really good discussion in there about, laying out late in the stall count is effective and laying out to stop a goal is effective. And it's just a very nuanced thing to get right, where it's like, if you introduce a topic to your team and you say, hey, we be laying out on the mark? And it's like, well, yes. And it's like, well, when? It's always a question and a debate, but basically, there's a couple rules that are synthesized, which is like, yeah, stop a sure goal or big yardage gain or huck opportunity, and late in the stall count, it's very effective at stopping a final option and either getting a hand block or a stall out.
Thanks for the clarification, Sarah.
I just remember my college ultimate days, and it's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. No, we should be doing this, and it's like, well, you're both right. let's find the agreement.
Oh wow, okay, this has already been quite interesting this point so far. It looks like he's determined to throw to this other player here, and then it's weird. He's like kind of looking at him, fakes the sidearm, which is never an option, and then looks downfield and points. Gets Kurt, is that Kurt Gibson going deep? Kind of winds up, doesn't really fake it. Then Kurt comes under, and then there's a late switch, right? Let's just see that one again. So I think that's Jimmy just waiting for the high stall bailout. And then here, the free cut and the great switch here from 64. I'm not sure who that is. But the really good switch, and the disc is already in the air, right? This like switching can get so many turnovers. There's no way that thrower has calculated that this is the defender, not this one. Yeah, Barry knows as well. And then it's like a battle for position, and Kurt Gibson is just very difficult to find fault, when he's got like that much pressure and he has to bend his cut and go trailing edge. Wow. But yeah, that disc gets thrown like just after he makes that move to switch. So very almost an immediate turnover. And then I paused it mid-point, mid-play. That's Cochran. Little
Cochran's very smart. He would do well in a switching scheme.
Flex.
He was really an underrated part of that run for Revolver.
And knows the right lanes to poach in. It's fast enough that he can get back on a mark and uses his height to...
Yeah, because there are definitely players that would work in like a switchy flex defense type thing, and there are players that kind of you can see that wouldn't really work. The ones that tend to like face mark, the ones that tend to flash poach perhaps. Although you can still flash poach and be capable of not flash poaching. But yeah, it's not every player I think has that like team defense mentality that they're able to kind of see the field in that way and react to the offensive movement as a team, rather than just kind of, you know, they're very, very good at shutting down one-to-one matchups. They're very good at the role in a zone. But that middle ground, you know, isn't intuitive at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most difficult part and I think that's why for so long it was just teams at the top with had the athlete advantage knew that they could wear people down with playing one-on-one defense, and that's why it persisted for so long, because if you don't buy into a team defensive mentality, you get the mistakes like we saw in the last possession, which was, oh, are you going to switch? Oh, I thought you had him, instead of just doing it and making it a team mantra. And so that's been the challenging part, but you can see that there were players capable of it back here, and some parts of it being utilized.
Yeah.
Also a nice Colorado Mama player, nominated for Callahan one of the years. Watson.
Ooh, one-handed. Bart Watson. What did I hear about him recently? Nice. This is a break. look at where that force is as well. Oh, almost touches the disc. Yeah, wow, what a throw. Oh, bless you.
Thanks. Thought I had it on mute. Bart was just so much fun to watch. I mean, he shot a shot so often.
He's the head economist of the National Brewers Association. Yeah. or as Joe Martin already posted about him being involved in some beer thing. But also correct.
Chips ulti photos. Check out all the crowd with Ida 10's Revolver with the advantage.
Someone mentioned the Savage Ultimate plug on Eurozone. Yeah, I just get reminded of Liam Grant saying that he's got friends that are terrible designers and like awful designs, and one of his friends designed the Guam flag. Have you seen the Guam flag, Brian?
I don't know that I have.
It doesn't look like a flag. It's like, it's blue and it's got like a circle in the middle, which is almost like a window into a view of like a beach with like a little palm tree, a little bit of sea in the background. It's bizarre, and it says Guam as well. It says Guam in the middle.
Perfect.
That's what you want from a flag, right? Little picture saying what it is.
Another one of those Colorado Mama Bird players for Johnny Bravo. Jeffrey out of Stanford. 6'3". One of those mainstay offensive cutters in the last few years.
How's the root cam going?
Does an excellent job of clearing space.
I like this defensive setup here. It's just, they're doing a good job of taking away the obvious option and forcing Revolver to go back and forth and end up in their own end zone.
Right at the back corner of their own end zone as well. Such patience.
Defensive pressure mounting. Foul on the play.
Foul. What's a foul? Is that here?
On the back line. Defensive pressure mounting. Foul on the play.
Is it a foul on the throw that then he
urging on
didn't decline?
We see Rasmussen in the back of the end zone with the disc in the back corner. Bravo looking for the Callahan. Schlag.
Have they transitioned to center stack? Center stack.
I don't think they're transitioning to center stack. I think they're confused. You've swung it, but there's not a clear side, and once you start swinging it to one side or the other, and now they're stuck because the rhythm's off. And so they're trying to figure out which way to go and just get it to a side.
Gets it off. And the call on the play, calling a push.
I think Schlag is underrated. I think, I mean, obviously he's rated very highly, but I don't think he made it onto like World Games team. I think he was one of the last ones cut before the World Games team. And
yeah, he was.
I can remember I watched the final in Colombia, which I think was like just before that cut, and he's involved in a couple of mistakes. But you know, I don't think they're his fault, and I think he's hard done by.
Those are just tough. I mean, you have to choose. So there's so many different options to choose from, especially in the mixed context, and then everybody's got to be able to play both ways. So you have a limited roster. It's a unique ultimate exercise that we don't see anywhere else. And Joel is very, very good on that's kind of a stacked team, and he can play a small role. But and I'm not saying that that his throws are not worth it or not capable, but that's not his primary job. And you kind of needed people to be able to do a lot of different things on that squad.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing him play much defense, and also big throws. I just think, yeah, I agree with you completely. But you need well-rounded players like that. But his skill set, I think, is very usable. You know, like you could have that player just. It's like greasing the machine, you know. It just helps everything go so much easier. But World Games, you got what, 7 people? Who would I get rid of on the team? Then Noah says. Remind me who's on that World Games team. The guys on it.
Grant Lindsley, Chris Gotcher, Dylan Freechild, Nick Stewart, Jimmy Mickle, Bo, George Stubbs. Who else?
Or staying with his dump.
That could be all of them, couldn't it? Well, that's a very hard question, isn't it?
Long possession here for Revolver.
Maybe Nick Stewart, but
great patience. Kittredge, Sneeder high.
But what's Nick Stewart's what's his skill set? It's more throwing, right?
He's big, tall, fast, and can throw.
Yeah.
Nick Stewart's great all around when he's healthy.
Yeah. Well,
just look at this patience here by Revolver, though. I mean, it has been a long time, and they are just disciplined in taking the option in front of them and taking the reset. They had a near mistake there with an overthrow, which is what you want, but still.
Oh, that's a weird half poach. Wow, such a small window, but hit so well. Oh my god. So you watch this poach, it comes all the way across. It's like a preemptive movement. Yeah, okay. So he's actually poached off into the lane because he knows that's the next cutter, and then his player goes deep. And then he's following from here. And
so much of what I wanted to do against Revolver is here. It's just a matter of breaking it down. And I think in the final, Bo for us in 2018 was just such a secret weapon because he knew what people were looking for. And so I think we didn't have these busted plays where we would leave somebody open deep like this and kind of take off the pressure. It's a smart play here to get in the middle of the lane. I like it, but there's just a couple of other things that need to happen. You see that defender, there's just a few missing pieces, and then this is where it can feel like a loss because you're like, well, we don't want to poach because somebody's going to get wide open deep. And we've said it before and been talking about this, but that's just kind of, I think, the fear of.
It's the fear of what? Sorry, Brian, you cut out there. Oh no, have we lost Brian? Let me check whether he's in Discord. Still there. Brian! Brian, where are you? So what I'm trying to draw here, you have this defender go over there and poach, right? And so he's kind of covering this under space. And it means that this defender can cover the deep a bit more. So then this cutter has a very narrow area to work with. But then the thing that doesn't happen is this defender over here, he needs to recognize it's 1 versus 2. Right, so he's got to contain hardcore. And he should be able to see. He should be able to see that there's 2 people there. So he should step back so that he's covering either of those players going deep, because that's a bigger threat. Yeah. potentially think about engineering so that this player can come back and mark one of them. You know, so maybe guard deep, but then allow them running into this space where they've already got that poach. But if they run away from him into the backfield here, then that's the least threatening space in the world, right? I mean, other than off the sideline, of course. Yeah, no, thanks for that. Really hard question. Put your money where your mouth is. Good, well said. Cutting Nick Stewart is not an easy decision. Bo Kittredge is incredibly useful player and effective, and experience at that level would bring so much more to a team than just what's on the field. Dylan Freechild had an absolute blinder of a tournament at World Games. The guy guarding the near side cutter messes that up. They seem to have people clearing to the near side, and the guy guarding the near side cutter messes that up. Why is he standing 2 feet away from the cutter when the disc is 45 yards away? Yeah, I've seen it a lot. I actually got told to do that on GB once as well. I was marking someone on the far side, someone who's faster than me as well, probably. And coach on the side was like, get really tight. And I'm like, I kind of got tight. And I was like, ooh. And they were like, actually, no, give him a few meters. I'm like, yeah, thanks. But it's not.
Even when, yeah.
You're back.
Sorry, I don't know if, I cut out. I don't know what happened, but, even when you're playing person defense, it doesn't make any sense to be that tight to that person.
Yeah.
Unless you're like baiting the huck. Unless you're Jeff Babbitt and you're like, go ahead.
Cool. Okay. Let's. I can't remember what you were in the middle of saying something when it cut out. But if you can't remember,
I was just talking. It was just a philosophy of poaching, and it's one of those things where it's you come off the field and you're like, do we need to poach less, or do we need to poach more? And really, what do you need to add? What was the real mistake that happened there? Because it can appear different to different people where they're confused. It's like, well, why did you leave your man and go to the middle of the field? You left a guy wide open. And it's like, well, why didn't you cover for me? And then you get your actual, you get success. And
yeah. And I guess that's why, getting everyone on the same page, having a early season meeting where you're like, right, this is how we're going to play defense. This is how we're going to play offense. Super valuable. Because you can't have flash poaching and committal to switches, instant committal to switches. If some players instantly committing to switches and some players flash poaching, you can have a bad time. Look at this catch.
All the way back.
Tight defense is overrated.
And the sideline can't believe it.
In terms of sport, just general team sports, there is an insane amount of focus on one-to-one coverage in Ultimate Frisbee compared to most other sports. You got it in matchups in American football, but field sports where the object can move in any direction, one-to-one coverage is I'd say far more exploited in other sports and therefore less rated. What's the call there? Was it a travel on the throw? Yeah, there's a drag, isn't there? Where's the disc? I think he started dragging his foot already, hasn't he? Yeah, so he drags a few inches. Couldn't Peterson switch onto the deep cut and let the poach take the under? Yes, Tony. Yes, that's exactly right. He should have positioned early so that he could take that deep.
Yeah, it's still hard though. I mean, there's no way. If you go back to that, it's a really yes, it's possible. But with these types of throwers, if we kind of go back to that point right where Peterson is he's kind of like the near side deep. He's strong side here. And if we freeze it right at this point, if Peterson stays in the middle of the field, freeze it right when he gets there, he's not really going to have a great chance of getting to the deep throw. I mean, he's a great athlete, so maybe, but you need the next guy to also help out, which is the person playing crazy tight there to the far sideline. And so Peterson has to kind of come over here. He has to be in the what we're going to call the strong side deep space, which is where the disc is.
Right.
So he's got to play center, almost towards that half of the field. And so right here, when the disc is caught, Peterson's got to be worried about this lane in front of the thrower going deep and protecting that as well. And so you want the next guy, the under is taken care of, the strong side deep is taken care of, and you need a weak side guy to back off and realize to help, okay, what's going to happen next? And so really that needs to be the person marking crazy tight. Yep, exactly. He needs to back off in order to kind of cover all three really valuable spaces, because he goes deep, and now if there's a throw to the middle of the field, you got three other defenders who could possibly pick it up.
Yeah. And so then it's useful then to rewind a little bit to see when that player should have realized that he should stop playing one-to-one tight. Right?
Right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
So it's very early, actually. It's very early. So let's find him. So okay. So it's this player here. Okay. So keep your eye on him. All right. And I'll go through it like frame by frame. I think you're not on the Discord share, so you got like 3-second delay, right?
Yeah, it's still loading for me, so I had internet problems.
Okay. So, okay, at this point, there's a player on the floor, and then the defender runs away. Okay, so here, I'd start being aware of this player. Yeah, I don't want to say I. It's really bad to use yourself in examples. One of the things I learned from Frank. So, like, you want to be aware of this player here, and you want to be thinking, okay, well, this player is definitely free, so I'm kind of covering two at the moment. Right? Even if you're not 100% sure what this player is over here. So this whole time, then it should be like, it's me versus these two with a bit of help from over here, if he's able to realize that that's where the other defender is. And right now, it looks like he's on him as well. And he just runs past. So it's like he's just blind to him, you know? It's like when the horses wear those things over their eyes so they can only see who they're trying to defend. But there's plenty of time there. But obviously, it's, you know, a system is an ethos on the team. But that would have stopped the huck, basically. a small game. Who knows what would have happened next? But yeah, very difficult to kind of see that in real time. You know, as you said, people can have discussions about it, and then you got to decide, well, what could we have done better? Without video footage and without those players immediately talking about it, it can be hard to really take lessons from those things.
Still discussion going on. Or doing it out.
So I don't think it was a travel, right? Because there's a chat going on here between these two. So what were those two doing? Was it? I feel like maybe it was on this undercut here. Yeah, I think he treads on his foot or something, or maybe pushes off with his arm. I think that's the actual call because he stops there. So that's the call. And he travelled. That was just a side point. Okay, here we go, back in. 10-10 in the semi-final of Worlds. Is this another push-off foul or what? Travel? Foul on the mark? I'm confused here.
And another foul.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game gets a little chippy, and if we try to analyze every single foul mark, we're going to need another 8 parts to go through it.
Okay, it won't be the most interesting either, so. I don't know what that was. Something on the mark, maybe he called foul as he stepped to throw and played through it, and then the guy was like, no, you called foul. Yeah, just throw it to Bo. He didn't even have to jog, right?
Cahill also has a signature two-handed backhand. Puts it out for
In the middle of the field here, it's exactly where you want him, and it's a hard force. I don't understand this. Like, why would you be this? We go back to the mark.
I'm trying.
I wouldn't want this mark to be the way it is. It's so far over, and then there could be somebody. I mean, without poaching in the lane, I just don't want to give this up. And then why wouldn't you? You've had a great possession where you could force Bo under and just keep him moving the disc around, and Revolver has been looking for the one-shot kill the entire time. It's just a bunch of different things I'd rather have happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the full spin around to the left. This poach in the lane arrives late. There's a poach that comes out the far near to the camera side. I quite liked the spacing here, and what I found interesting is actually seeing where the spacing was the worst, and what could be done about that. So I'll just kind of quickly kind of illustrate this. So I like the way the kind of like, especially near the disc, especially like having 1, 2, and then like something over here, whether it's a space or a player. These two players being near each other, right? That's the thing that flags up in my mind, like there's an inefficiency. And so the reaction to that could then be that this defender actually goes for the deep and this defender goes for the under. Yeah, so that then those two, whichever way they cut, they're gonna be going towards defenders, right? And if they did that, then it's possible that this defender, when he's sitting back, would actually see this cut going deep, and then he'd be able to poach off. Theoretical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of there's a bunch of different little things that could have happened differently, and you just need one thing to change, and you could have a viable defense from this point, which is you can have the no around hard force, but then you have to be backing the players or having help deep somewhere to make this feasible. I like Revolver in the middle of the field, and if you really want to constrain them to one sideline, it's not a bad setup, but it's just, this is where we talk about team defense. Does it all make sense? Or are we all in sync and guarding the right spaces at the right time? Because the mark is signaling something different, and Hilka is on the Sneeder is on the bow matchup, and he just can't be forcing him out from there, especially that shallow. There's just no good risk reward with that. And you could have that force, and you could have the poach as well, and then you would be in a good position for defending everything else around, and Hilka could be more aggressive.
And do you think maybe that their defense has been set off their rhythm by the stoppage as well? Perhaps if they were just...
No, I think that... No, the defense should get an advantage every time there's a stoppage. You get to look around, you get to see which space is going to be primarily attacked. And I think here it's just a mistake.
Noah asks if it's a double team if that guy got a touch on the huck. So I don't think double team works like that. I don't think it's dependent on it interfering in the play necessarily. And I think that if you throw through a double team, then you don't get the disc back. That's my understanding of it. Russ says the undercut's a diversion all the way. He teaches secondary cutters to pull the deep defender under. Yeah.
You know, it's been a long possession, and Bo has gotten a couple of unders and reset the disc, and you can feel the pressure mounting, so you're trying to be more aggressive because you feel like the offense is tired, and it's a weird place to be. It was a long point. It was a good one. Just one mistake really cost them.
Yeah, it's just a little lapse in concentration almost, wasn't it?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's just Bo is just a terrifying matchup. You have to figure out, a lot of teams just wanted to back him and he would get resets all day and help them move it around. And so you don't want to just let him get an easy under when you can help it. Otherwise, he'll just get it and reset it to Robbie Cahill, which is not really a good option. If Bo's catching it for free and then giving a reset back to Robbie, one of the best decision makers ever, and a really, really great hucker, then you're in trouble. So it's hard to figure out what you want to do.
Okay, so the center is about Watson. Watson pivots out. Nice. He's got such reliable throws. So nice just having it that height. Catch, outward turn, but inward stance. Big inside fake. Outside fake. The force is slightly off balance, but does well. Cutter reacts to that fake. Gets, and it's Mickle, he gets a bit of separation. Keeps the kind of flow going. Passing it across the middle. There's a slight poach here from where he's been sagging off. And then the timing just works out really nicely for a long flick to go out in front of Mickle. He's got the speed, doesn't need to lay out.
As Ring would call it, the butterfly cut. Jimmy comes under the break side after Nick gets the disc and then is going to book it deep. And so it gives you a lot of viable options. Ring would just keep it in Lance's hands and they would just throw this. They would just throw it down the sideline.
Right. Potential poach from here, but sees it late. I mean, I think you see this setup, player getting the disc, that kind of separation, that kind of field position. You probably want to start going deep then. Force them to take the second under.
Exactly.
Let's see why this defender poaches off as well. He's just kind of like, yeah, he's looking, just in case. That means Jimmy can't come open side, so he stops the open side under. Yeah.
It's also a late poach. I mean, he's not getting to the around. Lance has already faked it. It's like the little cues here of understanding that Lance has done. He's faked the inside. He's pivoted to the around. Now it's a really good opportunity for you to get back to the handler right away. It's not like you're going to be able to get to the around space. Jimmy's already in the lane, and so that inside poach isn't going to do you much good. And once you figure that out, you can just go back and start to play tight defense again, knowing that they're going to look dump.
Yeah, I could even pressure that if you get the timing right. Okay, get a couple of little replays, but see Jimmy's speed. Clap catch at the end. Nice. Bit of crowd shot. Let's see where the Bravo are offside. Revolver were offside last time. Brody.
Felix, the stickler for the rules.
Also stickler for good camera work and switching. Couldn't see the offsides.
Revolver finds Cahill. Now Kittredge.
So throw and go and give go type stuff might be easier to do without traveling now in Woofdiff. They've changed the rules a little bit. So it mentions about like 2 steps or something you're allowed. 2 ground contacts after catching if you release it. Yes, I mean that's obviously not a quote of the rules because that'd be too vague. But yeah, so they're basically a little bit more lax on the catch and throw traveling.
What was it before? Because I know in USAU rules it was before third ground contact. If you released it, you could throw on the run.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if there was a difference.
No, that's it. They before it was you have to be slowing down as rapidly as possible whenever the disc is in your hand. So even if you were going to release it within those 2 contacts, you had to slow down or be slowing down before you released it, which kind of made sense to me, but I'm not going to complain if give and go is made easier.
I love the shape of this cut that happened a few seconds ago for Bo to throw the around, and this is something that I think that is not often talked about, is just how do you cut for an inside versus an around, and because the space is there, it's a really nicely shaped break side cut, and a lot of people might look at this and go, oh, that's a curved banana cut, we shouldn't teach people how to do it, but there's a reason why it works here, is that the inside space is being guarded so hard that now the around space is open for a big gainer. And so I think it's one of those things where it's just not codified. It's one of those things that isn't talked about, but it ends up just kind of happening differently in different offenses. Like in the U.S., I noticed that Pittsburgh teams have a tendency to be able to hit certain break side spaces differently than others, and they set up their cuts differently. And so teams will often hit different break shapes and have different break side cutting shapes, but it's not talked about that often. It's because so much is focused on getting open on the open side that we don't talk about the timing for the break side and how it can differ, and how if you wait a second you can open up better inside space, or if you cut too early. Like, basically, I just don't think that's a part of the game that coaches are really frequently talking about and thinking about as much. We think a lot about big spaces and clearing, but there was just a nice cut by Marcelo to open up and attack the around.
Yeah, and it's drillable as well. You know, you can just set up cutter with a defender, and I guess you have to start them on particular cones to like recreate different like field positions and positioning between them. Then obviously a throw and a mark, and you can get the mark to kind of shade one way or shade the other way. But then the different shapes that are possible. It's all very much dependent on you know the positioning of that defender on your shoulder, and you know what the thrower has got in their arsenal as well. And there's lots of variables involved. But yeah, drillable for sure. There's a really nice throw in this offense. Let's go back. Go back to where we see that break side cut you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, if that throws, I guess if that throw is a bit short, then it potentially is the window for the defender to kind of go in and get it. But it's actually just really nice. Even though the defender's right in the back, can't get a bid. And then there just swings over to the near side, and then there's this. Okay, that was a weird inside flick. But it happens again as well. There's another inside flick. And Bravo definitely like poaching off, like people near the disc. Let's have a look at this D. I think, is that Kurt Gibson? And he like realizes, oh hello, you know, I'm getting drawn into some dangerous space here. And he so almost gets it. And then look at that throw. That's awesome. Oh, so good, isn't it? Look at that.
So rare. You wouldn't throw the shape that often.
Yeah.
This is not something you'd spend time drilling too. You've got to rely on your star players to be able to make this. It's one of those throws where it's like, all right, we don't throw that as a team, but you know, Robbie's allowed to throw it. Harper's allowed to throw it. Jimmy's allowed to throw it.
It's almost like if you rotate the field like this. Then that might be more common.
Yeah.
Even then.
This is one of the throws that, you know, I think for me is what brings the initial joy to the game, is figuring out how to do this. When I learned how to throw flicks and learned how to shape throws, and you just don't see it that often because it's rare. There's not as many opportunities to be this creative.
Yeah.
But when it's an awesome realization of the space available and throwing your receiver open.
Yeah, my brother gave me a few little coaching points when I started playing, and they've ended up being like really, really good. And one was when you throw around, don't just imagine getting the disc from A to B. Like, imagine the entire flight path and exactly like the shape and what it looks like, and then try and throw the disc like along that flight path. And I think that really helped develop my throws, the variety of my throws. Another thing he told me was on my first ever point was if they throw the frisbee to the person that you're opposite, then catch it before they do. And I ran down the pool. My first ever point, I ran down the pool. Oh, Ruth turned her back to the camera. Ran down the pool, and short version of the story is after like one pass, they threw to my person, and I was like, okay, I've got to catch this before he does then. I think I'll be able to do it. And then he started accelerating towards the disc. So I was like, oh, now I'm going to have to dive if I want to get there first. So I laid out, and I went to catch it, and it bounced out of my hand. So I was like, oh, I didn't do the thing. I landed on the ground. I was like, oh, was that okay? And everyone there was like, that's fine. Just like keep doing that. Something else impressive, I guess it's intentional, is that they're all like nicely like side stacking here in front of the disc. Which is why that this insanely expansive throw is an option, because there's literally no players in this entire space.
When you know everybody's going to play one-to-one defense against you, you can use it to your advantage.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like a rabbit hole. That, you know, the side stack is this extreme result of such focus on one-to-one. You know, like it's logical and a natural evolution of strategy. I mean, natural's maybe a bit much, but it kind of makes sense. One-to-one, one-to-one, one-to-one. Okay, they're sticking to us, so let's drag them all over to one side of the field. And then advantage offense. Natural, I think, would be the defense, you know, spreading out into the space. As soon as the offense bunch together, defense surround, defense spread into space. I think that's what you'd see if robots and AI played Ultimate.
And Revolver has the perfect sparring partner in every single practice, and the way that they practiced too was kind of suited them in this nature, which was, you know, talking to Dutchy, who coached them not at this point in time. He coached them in 2010, 2011, 2012, and was on the team before that. Their practices were marathons and were intentional to be practicing this high stress, really high energy, play one-to-one defense the entire game and wear the other team down. And so you see Revolver go through those really long points where they wait and they're patient and they wait for that kind of kill shot to happen, because they know that the other team is going to wear down before they do, and it's a big advantage for them. It really flows into everything. It's one of those teams that had a really good identity that made sense from offense to defense and all the way through, of how they practiced, how they had what their mentality was, and it's fantastic when you can get everything to coalesce into one distinct identity, and have it feel like everybody's kind of contributing to that as well.
Yeah, it's really good. I think having 3 words to unite your team is something actually Brighton did as well last year. So that everyone's pulling in the same direction. How do you deal?
Yeah, it's hard.
Like if you have one poorly spirited player on your team, then what would your approaches to dealing with that be?
Depends on how they're poorly spirited. There's certain things that cross the line that you don't allow, and then there's you know, you very firm about, and then there's just conversations, because part of this sport is about personal growth as well, and learning how to play with mutual respect in a good way. And it's interesting because, you know, at the high levels there are teams that are going to be enjoying more playing with the trash talk. I mean, I think when Ring and Pony get together, there's a lot of jabbering going back and forth, but I still really enjoy those games. And I think there's, especially in the USA, there's a feeling of, I want the game at every point to feel fair, and to not feel like we got cheated out of a win or cheated to get a win. And so that's kind of like my personal line, which is, you know, in the USA Club Series is, there's going to be, it's fun to trash talk sometimes, but I do it in a friendly way with some of the people, and I enjoy that rivalry portion of it. So there's kind of like the spirited of like-ness of, hey, we're getting a little bit more frustrated than we should, versus the spiritedness of we are, you know, now we are cheating in a way that doesn't make this game fair, and the latter really bothers me a lot more than the former does.
Right. So what if like they seem quite amicable and reasonable kind of in the discussions, but they just end up calling lots of stuff you know, which over time as a coach, you're kind of like, it's another one that I didn't really see, you know, given benefit of the doubt so many times. But then it's like, you know, look, this is happening too much, you know, it's not, you know, and then you start realizing that actually, you know, some of the calls they make are fictitious almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's less of fictitious calls nowadays. I think a lot of teams are really good, and it's a matter of, especially the U.S., and I know that we're watching a Worlds game, and I know that you're in WFDF, and so I can my primary experiences are in this U.S. game, which there's a gray area. The rules allow, you know, if people want to play a certain way and you want to play with physical contact. So what happens is, it's not that teams are cheating, it's that teams are establishing what the gray area is throughout the game. And so I'd point back to kind of the U.S. Open last year with Pony versus Truck Stop, where both teams had kind of a disagreement of what physicality meant and like were the foul calls legitimate or not. And we had to have discussions about it team to team in order to figure it out and find a place that felt fair to both squads. So I think that's kind of where most of the games lie. It's very rare that I feel like a team nowadays is outright cheating, making calls intentionally in a way. It's, you know, I think there's a really good games in a mostly good place, and there's outliers, but I think it's in a good place in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, it's just when it's your own team that are making those calls, and when you can then identify as being one particular player, then that's what how I wonder how different coaches going to deal with that. And I think for me it was like, look, our team ethos is that we win fair. Yeah. So if anyone does anything that's kind of against the spirit, then that's like doing it against what our team wants to do, right? So that then they might have been feeling some pressure to, you know, be unfair in order to you know, for the team, but then you make it clear that's not for the team, that's against the team. And then some people, you always need to phrase it in like, look, we don't play as well when the games become like that. You know, like if you want us to play the best we can, you know, we keep it fair and we just play hard and hard and fair and honest, rather than getting into chippy and rather than getting into arguments and aggressiveness. And then that can appeal to some players as well.
Yeah, I think it's that chippiness is, it's hard because there are times when I love it, and I love it against an opponent that I respect, and that we're trying really hard, and there's a certain amount of emotion in the game that makes it more fun. It's hard because that line can very quickly be crossed into bad territory where it's like, I like the rivalry aspect of it. I love kind of that. It doesn't bother me. Like it was really interesting for me personally because a lot of people talk about the Sockeye Pony game in 2018 and semifinals being this like knockout, drag out, and really intense moment. And just for me, it was a lot of the game was serene and just cold and calculating. And so when somebody does, you know, the other team is a lot of it for me is trying to stay in the moment too. And as cliche as that sounds, it's like I can't control what they do. So the chippiness doesn't bother me. It's the cheat. It's like when somebody is being unfair, that bothers me, and that happens way less than it used to.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We could carry on talking for ages about then observers and the influence of them. But there's quite an interesting sequence of play here. Jimmy throws like a lead pass out to the far side, and then there's a poach that comes in and almost gets it, right? And then Bravo then Revolver, sorry, are then kind of on a weird like back foot. They're kind of in like a weird poaching mentality, because then they got this player completely free here, right? So the defender that's still on their feet then runs deep to help out. This player switches. Okay, so they were originally marking them. Now they go to mark them, which means that this player should then pick them up. And let's see what happens. Yep, so he waves that he's free. He's covering the undercut. So really at this point, once this defender here realizes that player's running towards another defender, then they should be the one to take the initiative and go mark the free person.
This is a hard thing to get intuitive with, is from the defender that is coming off of the opportunity to get the block and to be able to recover to the inside of the field instead of to the main lane. It's the person with the back has the vision to kind of direct traffic, and that's why it's kind of hard to develop where you should go next, and it's just a little bit late, like you said.
And then there's a completely missed opportunity. So that was like a weird overcommittal after a weird poach, and maybe they're poaching off because they see this deep cutter, so they kind of half go with the deep, and then they're just kind of caught in no man's land, and they're almost like they're shrugging, and then they commit late, then get the disc, but then here this is the killer one, right? So there's one player from each team off the side of the screen, and then this revolver player just allows it's being blind to what's going on in the field. He's walking. He allows a free offensive player to run past him, and then he's pointing aren't I on that guy? And the guy in the back goes, well, clearly I'm on him now. Look, there's a guy running past you. And so then it's oh yeah, okay. But that's too late. You're definitely going to get scored on in the semi final of the World Championships if you allow that. You should be, at least. So then he goes, that's Nick, right? And he goes and gets the disc. And then a bit of face marking in the end zone here, expecting there to be a force, right? But the force isn't there because that blown switch, or whatever you'd call it. So then just an easy backhand for the goal. And a bit of a disheartened revolver, hands up in the air. There'd been some switching, but it's kind of all over the place. A whole load of small kind of shortcomings, I guess, in the defense adjusting after that initial poach bid. Just watch it all through at the regular speed.
On TV, you look bigger on TV. Mickle is way bigger in real life than he looks.
And then good composure from Bravo to take what they're given the whole time. Keep their composure. Let the people that are free get the disc. Not occupy the thrower with frantic cuts when you're marked.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good pace to realizing they kind of have a situation where the defense is flustered. The defense needs to work really hard to stop that flow, and they don't do it. Instead, they're arguing about who should have the person in the backfield, like you said.
Yeah.
This is just an easy ultimate.
Both defenses a bit flummoxed on how to deal.
Brady asks if the least enjoyable people to play with have been the chippiest. I think that's a question for the chat. Least enjoyable people to play with have been the chippiest. I wouldn't say so. I don't know, I'd have to think through all the different players. Okay, let's go next.
Depends how you define chippiest, but yeah. There are players who are emotional, and that can spice things up, but...
Socket will field it to Rasmussen. Cahill in isolation on Gibson. Cahill trying to step through.
Right, you've only got 5 minutes left, right? So we might not even finish this point.
No, I think we'll get through it.
Deja vu. I feel like we had this conversation in part 1.
I like the disc going in the middle of the field. If you're the defense, it's a win, because if we kind of see the chaos that ensues, there's no obvious continuation, and so you get a moment of confusion. But the opposite side of that is now the defense doesn't know which side to kind of overplay. Revolver does a good job of working through the chaos.
So do you mean going to the middle at the very beginning? Or...
I mean, no, not in the very beginning. Here's good. They have a good setup, but when they get an undercut to the middle of the field for a gainer, and it's yards that are gained, but they don't really do anything. So it's a few more passes down the line.
Okay, yeah, that one came into the middle. Defender's right there as well.
Yeah, this one's good for the defense as well. I mean, there's not much space, and you took a risk, but there's another one that's going to come.
Mm-hmm. Here's one. Through the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Here, there's an opportunity to get where the offense doesn't know which side they should be stacking to. So we talked about it before earlier. You mentioned, Revolver's caught in the back of their own end zone. They're doing a center stack. And here, they're kind of like, which we have to analyze the force. And Revolver does a good job of working through the chaos, but really the defense can now easily poach both sides. And so you end up getting a back pass. And you have offense now spread out, which is not Revolver's tenant. They're kind of confused. You see Cassidy in the middle of the field figuring out where to cut.
So look at this. Poaching defender just comes off bow with the bid. Bow immediately goes deep, gets picked up. This guy's pointing. So then you got 1v2 here, and then you got 2v1 over here. Okay, and then he's picked up the free person. Bow's free for the hammer, massive hammer. I've actually thrown a huck over Bo Kittredge before, with Bart Watson, I think, threw me a swing pass, and then I hucked it to Brummy over Bo. So it's bizarre that happened. There is footage of it. I need to actually find that tape and put the tape onto computer. But it was an elite skills clinic in the UK. So where does the huck actually come from in the end, or where does the score? Is it they're just marching up? Let's speed it up a little bit. Just a nice cut there, quite tightly marked, and then slack it. Oof. Yeah, he doesn't have any separation, but it's just something about the way that he runs means that it always feels like you can just put the disc out in front of him. It's almost like he was getting ready to cut out the other way then. So he almost like slows down, leans backwards a little bit, and the disc just goes out in front. He's just always ready for the disc.
Yeah, he gets good inside position, and it's hard to tell, how much separation there is, but he's got a long time. That's not a quick cut in the sense, like I know we're watching slightly slow right now, but it's one of those things where a thrower can see that tight window and be confident they can hit it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, another patient display of offense from Revolver, right? And that'll be the last point that we analyze today. I don't know how many points there are left, but 12 all. This was still when we were playing to 17, wasn't it?
Yep.
So plenty of points left, probably. All right. Well, I'll spend like 10 minutes, I think, rounding off and chatting to chat. So anyone in chat?
Yeah, I'll be able to hop into the voice too and talk afterwards if anybody wants to join in on that. I'll be around.
To Discord.
So. Yep.
Okay, nice. All right. Thank you, Brady. Looks like Brady and Russ were having a conversation. Thank you, Russ. Great stream, he says. Thank you, Brian, for joining again. I really like doing these ones with you, Brian. I think as soon as we get through this game, let's just line up another one and just keep chatting to each other as we go through ones, if you're up for it.
Yeah, and I mean, in this uncertain time during the pandemic, it's amazing. I know that there's a lot of other important things happening, but I've been able to recently figure out what sports and what ultimate frisbee means to me, and it's really fun to dive back into this and to get back into what feels like a sense of normalcy to just chatting about Ultimate. And a lot of the people here in the chat, I'm sure, kind of share our affinity for just thinking about the game and how it can be better and how we could do better and seeing what makes people great. So I always love coming on here. Thanks for having me, Felix.
You're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next one. When should we do the next one? Are you free next week?
Yeah. Well, why don't we try to set something up for Monday?
Oh, Monday. What do you think, chat? Can we do Monday? Monday streams? 4:30, same time, 4:30 UK, 11:30 EDT. What do we say?
Sounds
in the chat?
great.
Okay, I think I could do Monday. What do you think, chat? Ross, Brady, you guys do Monday? Edgar? So we've got Miranda Rothnals, who said that she's spoken to you. Or she speaks to you, should I say. And
yep.
You've mentioned these streams maybe to her as well. And I contacted her and she's up for joining at some point. So
yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. We haven't decided which game to look at yet. So there's been some suggestions on Discord. If you have any ideas, Brian, or if anyone else has any ideas, then let us know either here or in Discord. And then shout out to this is Ed Shardley, who gave me the little bits of coaching that I mentioned earlier. My mum and dad. And we've got all these, like the Rue tier patrons. Massive shout out to all of you. They get like an extra Hex and Flex training video, and they get extra Rue content. There's a video of Rue as a kitten, playing with string and just generally doing kitten stuff. I really enjoyed putting that video together from like 2012 it is. That's available to Rue tier patrons. You got to get your premium cat content.
Shout out to Jack Kirby, Albany, New York. I actually played with his dad in Summer League and won a Summer League championship in Albany back in the day.
Cool. Jack is a Jack that you coach, but keep him relatively anonymous. There's R here as well. Some people want to be anonymous. That's fine. Stefan Rapazzo, UltiTV, came up with the group Hex name. I was asking him and Tom Styles what I should call my memoirs book. I was asking what I should call the Hive, or like a group of Hex and Flex coaches.
No.
Yeah, group Hex. I was like, nice. And then we've got these archived film sessions. So if you want to see me and Brian, then Pony v Revolver, one of the early ones that we did. And then down here, we did a couple more, the first bits of this game. So part 1 is on YouTube, part 2 is patrons only on patreon.com/FelixUltimate. Let me just check my checklist, make sure I've done everything. I put up a poll on YouTube. It would be really cool to hear what kind of content people want me to make, right? Like, am I live streaming too much? Because if I live stream all the time, I can't make other videos. Would you like me to kind of go through a game, or maybe go through all the games that we've live streamed and be like, look, these were the amazing plays from this game. This is basically like how it kind of happened strategically or whatever. There's the most interesting bits. Here's what I draw on the screen. Or even just remaking, don't have to clip from the stream. Remake videos about those games. Do you want me to do the stuff like Johnny Bansfield's 13 touches of the disc, and just find a player, and then see their impact on the game? Do you want me to like analyze every single turnover from a particular match? Like, these are all different like types of content, or like the Machine's comeback. So I guess one of the reasons I'm asking for feedback is because the Machine's comeback video didn't really do very well, and it kind of took quite a lot of time. And if I put time into something, I kind of want it to be something that people want to see. And so I don't know. Like, the Machine's comeback, I thought it was quite interesting, but it's just not getting the views on YouTube. So I'm like, well, is that just the algorithm? Is it people becoming more busy after lockdown, just kind of easing off? Or is it just people not interested in me going into that much detail, you know, on like play-by-play type stuff? So I want to hear your thoughts. There's a poll on YouTube at the moment, but it's not a very good poll because you can only select one thing. Come chat to me on Discord. I'm going to put a poll up on Patreon as well. I might do like a feedback form because I want to get like a, you know, definitive kind of, I want to get definitive data which I can actually act on. And I need to know from you guys basically. So yeah, keep your ears peeled for that. There's nothing other than the YouTube one that's on the community page on YouTube. You can fill that one in for now, which you know, just one option, 2 clicks. But keep your ears peeled for keep your ears to the ground for an upcoming like feedback thing, or just let me know in Discord. Let me know here. Edgar says quality streaming. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the Roo cam and everything. Roo didn't get any biscuits today. If anyone donates or subscribes or becomes a patron for $1, then Roo will get biscuits. But poor Roo, nothing so far. Roo is Evan Lepler. So I think I should get a microphone for her as well. Little cat headset. Oh. I'm going to play disc golf in a few minutes. I'll hop onto Discord for like 15-20 minutes. Maybe talk some coronavirus or something. It's always interesting to chat coronavirus with the various hosts from different places in the world. And then I'm going to head off to some socially distanced disc golf action. Brady says, if Roo still had Roo's personality, but could talk with an ultimate player's voice, who would I pick? I'd pick Roo. She can be so critical. Like I overslept this morning, right? I mean, I overslept. I didn't really have a time I had to be out of bed, but she was like, "Where's my breakfast? Where's my breakfast?" And then she just sat there, like looking at me, like staring at me. Whenever I'd like open my eyes, she was just sitting there, like. So I think she'd be super critical if she could analyze frisbee. And I think I'm quite keen to hear that. So that's what I'd pick. AJ, you missed the thing. Well, I don't know. Did you miss the thing? What, the Roo alert? Not sure. Okay. All right, guys. It's time to round it off and head to Discord. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you again, Bryan, for joining.
Of course.
Hope you've all enjoyed it. Sounds like we'll be doing another stream on Monday. Oh, AJ, it's my bad because I didn't do the Discord announcement. I'll do that. I'll put that on my must to do list. It's on my list already, so my bad. Cool. Thank you everybody for listening. Brady, there's no swearing allowed in the chat, so that message you just sent has been withheld. Well, I'll see you in Discord, and if not, then probably Monday. So thank you. Yeah, ready. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
Oh yeah. Yes, you're good. Yeah. Oh yeah.